This story is about Jehovah Jireh. God provides. Now, a long time ago, the people of Israel, they were slaves. And they were slaves in the land of Egypt, and they needed a deliverer. And the deliverer was born. His name was Moses. Now, the Pharaoh had said that all of the Israelite babies should be killed, all the Israelite boys. And so when Moses was born, he should have been killed. But his parents, they prayed to God, and God gave them a solution. He provided a way of escape. He provided a basket, and they put Moses in the basket, and they floated him down the river. And they left it up to God, and they put their trust and faith in him. And sure enough, Moses was saved and grew up to be the deliverer that the Israelites needed. And then later they went into the desert, and there's no food in the desert. There's no rain to grow crops or anything, and they're just wandering around. And God provided yet again, and he provided by giving them manna from heaven. And they go out into the desert. Every morning, God sent this manna, and the Israelites would go, and they would fill up what they needed in their baskets with manna, and they would have food for the day. And God provided for them for 40 years that way. And then, when Jesus was on earth, Jesus is working miracles, and he's telling parables, and he's teaching the crowds. And one night, the crowds, they were out in the middle of nowhere, listening to Jesus, and the disciples come to Jesus and say, Jesus, what are we going to do? We should send these folks home so that they can go and eat. And Jesus says, well, how about you guys feed them? And they said, well, we don't have any food. All that we have is this little kid has some fish and some bread. And Jesus said, that's okay, bring it here. And he prays over it and tells the disciples to distribute it. And afterwards, there's leftovers. But there's not just a little amount of leftovers. There's 12 giant baskets full of leftovers. And that's another time that God provided. And then, later on, after Jesus is gone and the church is spreading, there's the Apostle Paul, and he's converted in Damascus. And he's preaching in Damascus, and there's a lot of people that don't like the Christians. And they don't like Paul, and they're trying to kill him. And they set up guards at all the gates of the city, and normally the walls are supposed to keep you out, keep the enemies out. But this time they were keeping Paul in, and he had no way of escape. But God provided yet again. And Paul, his friends, they put him in a basket, but I won't fit in that one. But they put him in a basket, and they lower him over the edge of the wall. And that's how he escapes the city. And God provides so many times throughout the Bible. Those are just a couple of stories. But God didn't stop providing, and he still provides for each of us.